Pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
Pretty disturbing scenes over the weekend.
Really taken aback.
Well, as one of the event's main speakers and organisers, I was actually very pleased with turnout. Yeah, I am. I unlike Business Secretary Peter Kyle, I am disturbed by what.
Did you say he wasn't?
On Sunday, Trevor Phillips asked him, was like, about 100,000 people turned out to Robinson. Does that disturb you? And Kyle was like, I love free speech. He was like, what we saw at the weekend was, people exercising their right to free speech. And it makes me glad to be in a country where people can voice their opinions. Obviously, a lot of flags being waved at this thing. And I think it's important to say that, the flag is for everyone. And it can mean a lot of different things to different people.
Well, congrats, Mr. Kyle, sir. I think you threaded that needle nicely.
Yeah. We'll get onto the kind of opening the Pandora's box and playing with political forces that I don't think should be played with later on in the conversation, but maybe we should just outline briefly for everyone what did happen over the weekend. So Tommy Robinson's Unite the Kingdom rally, which is ostensibly an event about free speech. Attendees estimated to be, and Peter Kyle said this on the round as well, sort of 100,000, 110,000, maybe a few more. And it's sort of, Tommy's call was kind of a no drinking, no fighting, keep yourselves on your best behaviour. This is a street party. This is a celebration. And I think it kind of had that energy, at least, and before midday. And then, as you and I both know, who have reported from these things before, that Tesco by Westminster Tube Station does a roaring trade in cans on these days. People get more drunk, they do more gear, and it gets more aggressive, it gets more leery. And the world's richest man addressed the crowd and said, violence is coming, you have to fight or die, and the left is the party of murder, which is a reference to one of his tweets after the Charlie Kirk assassination. So I think, whatever bonhomie there was at the march before that happened, I think the sort of the clarity of the message was kind of emphasised. When after that happened, I think there were some minor clashes between them and a much smaller stand-up to racism demo that happened. I think it's about 25 people arrested, 26 police officers injured, about 5,000 people on the counter demo. And various outlets have interviewed the people that were at the march, and it's a combination of we want our country back, remigration now, although I think the banner at the front, which was being held by Tommy, Laurence Fox, Katie Hopkins, there was like a Polish MEP there,
right?
Who I hadn't heard of before, but I assume has,
troubling,
as what we would describe as unpalatable views. And the banner they were holding, and someone called Valentina Gomez, the banner they were holding said re-immigration now.
So do immigration again? Sort it out?
Re-up.
Wheel it up, wheel it back.
Reload that one, DJ. No, I think, I think re-migration is catchier. Obviously, re-immigration. And there's a confused message there, but, I don't think we should try to read too much into sort of the intellectual cohesion of this movement. But it's very much like deport Muslims. You see protesters being interviewed. It's sort of, we didn't have a problem with Chinese people or black people who came over here and worked hard.
I don't believe that.
No. For what it's worth, Ed, I also don't believe that.
But I think you might have a problem with it too.
But it's a thing. Again, you've interviewed these people, and they will say things like, the way immigration used to be, we didn't have a problem with. And, people that will come over here and pay their taxes and contribute, we're all for that. But In the last 20 years, it's changed, it's different, and that is usually a reference. Well, if looking at the history of migration, I think there are two big things that happen. One is Tony Blair not applying the handbrake when the Eastern European nation states entered the European Union in the way that other European nations did, and so as a result, there was a large influx of kind of Polish, Romanian, etc. People coming to the UK, and then there is the sort of post-Brexit massive increases in legal migration from places, yes, like Hong Kong and Ukraine, but also Southeast Asia and other places. And there's the through thread of the grooming gang scandal, the rape gangs. And essentially the argument goes, the people that are now coming to the UK are a sort of an enemy within, who don't believe in our values. They want to establish Sharia law. And, look around you. Look at the country. This isn't the country that I grew up in. It's not the one I want to live in. And that's, roughly speaking, is their message. Then, after about half a gram and a few tins, they then start shouting like Heil Hitler and stuff. And as you all know, you sort of see like infrequent Nazi salutes and stuff like that. And I know I'm being glib, and not everyone who attended that march will be like as fully paid up like neo-Nazi as the more hardcore elements of it. But there is a through thread kind of essentially a sort of anti-Islam mass deportation. I think it's probably fair to say that broadly is kind of like the overall tone of the people that were marching.
So that was the biggest far-right protest we've seen in a long, long time.
More than a decade, yeah.
What's interesting is the ones we've been to have never amassed those numbers. So why, if you've looked at Tom Robinson's content, like this has been trailed for probably almost a year. Like we're going to save the kingdom, because I think these rallies happen in Westminster intermittently, and they're normally about a few thousand.
Yep.
So obviously very alarming that 100,000 people attended a far-right march on the streets of London, but this seems to be a special occasion. They're not mobilised every weekend, these people, and they cannot be convinced to come to all of them. This was like, so I think you can't over-egg, or you shouldn't over-egg this movement as yet. I think it wasn't certainly all the people who would have been there, because obviously some people have mobility issues or other commitments. Maybe they had a wedding to go to. Maybe they were on holiday, couldn't get the time off work.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I think this would be like a very, very, very large proportion of them.
Calling freelancers, small and mid-sized business owners. Tide's Instant Saver account offers up to 4% AER variable, flexible access and competitive returns.
Unlike other options on the market, you won't need to hold your money with Tide for a fixed period. That means you'll have instant access and free withdrawals whenever you need it.
You can get started today with just £1, making it easy to start growing your business savings.
Want to know what you'll earn? Tide's clever calculator gives you a clear picture up front.
Our audience will receive £100 cash back when you deposit £5,000 within the first 30 days of opening your Tide Instant Saver account.
Use code JOE, that's J-O-E, JOE. New members receive an annual equivalent rate of up to 4% AER variable, free for 6 months. For the full offer, visit tide.co/Joe. T's and C's apply.
I see it slightly differently. I think it's incredibly serious and worrying. I think previously, like I don't want to. If when you say don't over-egg it, you mean I'm not for a second suggesting that these people represent like mainstream opinion, because as much salience as there is for immigration as a political issue, typically it's top 2 now in polling. The vast majority of normal people in this country are not advocating for the mass deportation of, for example, Muslims from the UK. But what we have seen is an increase in the kind of scale of these marches that coincides with Robinson's return to social media, to mainstream social media platforms. And in addition to that, the sort of creation, the sort of I guess the mainstreaming of the hard right, which kind of sits between MAGA, the sort of Musk hard right, like tech bro side of things, which is a bit more libertarian and a bit more sort of boosterish, and its increasingly transatlantic nature. You know, Musk is addressing a crowd of 100,000 people in Westminster via live video link. The talking points are broadly the same as what he's tweeting in relation to the Charlie Kirk assassination. And in fact, over the weekend, I saw far more Brits on my social media, like people I know, posting, you know, sort of like a picture of Kirk and his family with like a, you know, a heartbreak emoji and stuff like that. And you're sort of thinking, going like, it's like he's a podcaster.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? It's like the political forces at play now, and this is enhanced and magnified by social media. They are not constrained by national borders. They are transnational, specifically transatlantic. And I think Musk's X is a huge driving force, particularly for Tommy, who, since coming back to the platform, I need to check the exact number, but certainly has more than 1 million followers now, is amplified by Musk, is amplified by these other big accounts. I think it's a really, really serious development. And what you've essentially seen there is that fringe element of the extreme right is essentially saying, we are numerous, we are organised, we can bring 100,000 people to a given location at any time. And, well, you know, in the words of Musk, violence is coming. We are going to fight back. We're not going to die, etc. I think that should give everyone a huge amount of cause for concern. It should disturb you, Peter Kyle.
I wonder how Nigel Farage is feeling about it. No, seriously.
Yeah. No, I know you are. Yeah,
because the Reform Conference was a bit of a shit show. It seemed they certainly didn't have anywhere near this number for something. And like Nigel Farage is on telly like every single day.
Yeah,
essentially, probably trailing his Reform Conference. How does the most popular party in the country, they can't mobilise this, but Tommy Robinson, who mainstream media will not platform uncritically, can energise 100,000 people to come from all over the country. Like, Nigel Farage thinks these forces benefit him. He's trying to ride that dragon and play both sides. They're like winking at that. Like, he's not saying the real stuff out loud, but he's winking and playing to that crowd, and that crowd is going,
yeah.
Say it.
Yeah.
Say it. So you are too woke, essentially. Like these are the people who reject him, and the Reform voters are those who respect Starmer. So everyone is trying to cater to this increasingly right wing, more radical crowd. It's like the tail wagging the dog at this point. Like how recently was it that Rishi Sunak sat down with Elon Musk?
Yeah,
that was 18 months ago.
Yeah. Fireside chat.
For a fireside chat with the incumbent prime minister, and then a year and a half later, he's giving a speech at a Tommy Robinson rally. And this man, up to this point, was one of the most important figures in the American administration.
Yeah, and I mean, still obviously is like a ginormously important figure, culturally, politically, and certainly economically in America. Yeah, look, I think he has gone off the deep end, clearly.
Yes.
Thanks to Tide and their instant savings account for sponsoring this week's podcast.
New members receive an annual equivalent rate of up to 4% AER variable.
Our audience will receive £100 cash back when you deposit £5,000 within the first 30 days of opening your Tide Instant Saver account.
Use code JOE. For the full offer, visit tide.co/Joe. T's and C's apply.